expelled as a teenager after my jealous twin fabricated lies that destroyed my reputation and led my parents to abandon me, only to have those same parents reappear years later, now broke, regretful, and demanding financial support after witnessing my success as a 28-year-old woman who built a career and life on her own without them. Expelled as a teenager due to fabricated accusations from my sibling, years afterward parents witness my achievements and request financial support following their abandonment of me. I am a 28-year-old woman with a twin sibling. During our upbringing, my twin and I received vastly different treatment from our parents. My parents genuinely appeared convinced somehow that my sibling was meant for excellence, while I was the designated outcast simply because I preferred engaging in athletics or forming new friendships rather than academics. They continuously made comparisons between us, which was disheartening and damaged my confidence from an early age. During childhood, I had to observe my sibling enjoying elaborate celebrations on our shared birthday with his companions while I was regarded as secondary. He frequently hosted sleepovers with his peers while I was never permitted to invite my companions to our residence. To be frank, I despised every moment of my upbringing. The sole family member who appeared to value me was my grandmother. When she came to visit, she consistently brought my preferred sweets and sometimes secretly gave me small amounts of money so I could indulge myself later. As time progressed, this obvious preference for my twin sibling slowly evolved into psychological mistreatment directed toward me. My parents would openly ridicule my academic performance and diminish my interests. It seemed as though regardless of my efforts, I could never satisfy their standards of being the ideal child. Although I excelled at athletics, they prohibited me from joining after-school activities as they wanted me to focus solely on academics just like my sibling. This was aggravating and I felt powerless as a youth. Later during my second year, I was restricted once more, and this occasion the offense was having Snapchat installed on my device. I had committed absolutely no wrongdoing except like all adolescents my age, I had downloaded this application to maintain contact with my companions. However, according to my parents, this was a major violation and a betrayal of their confidence as they had prohibited me from communicating with my peers. They became extremely angry with me and scattered all my belongings around the room. They then removed my door from its frame and informed me that I would have no personal space as long as I resided in their home. Witnessing my parents mistreat me in this manner, my twin sibling, instead of standing by me, made my situation worse. The harmful atmosphere created by our parents' unfair behavior enabled him to take advantage of the circumstances to his benefit. He developed a habit of deceiving about me, falsely claiming I did things I never committed so that he could escape consequences for everything. If he took something, he would easily blame me, and my parents, already predisposed to think poorly of me, readily believed his deceptions. He would humiliate me in front of my companions at school and would mock my looks. Despite this, I maintained a large group of friends at school because I was friendly and willing to form connections. My twin, however, had difficulties socializing, and he began to feel resentful that I could communicate with people while he, being reserved, felt uncomfortable. This envy reached a breaking point during our 14th birthday celebration when nobody appeared for him on his special day. I have no clue why his companions treated him that way, but in sharp contrast, my friends brought me out for frozen treats, and I experienced an altogether delightful day. This enraged my sibling further. To seek vengeance, my sibling started to circulate fabricated gossip at school about me where he would depict me as a pampered troublemaker. He would falsely inform everyone that I was supposedly physically harming him at home, since our parents favored him more. Unknown to me, he escalated things to a disturbing degree. To create false proof, he would strike himself deliberately, causing injuries like a bruised eye or damaged shoulder. The following day, he would confidently enter school displaying the self-caused wounds as evidence of my alleged aggression and create stories. Whenever our parents inquired about the injuries, he would deceive them, claiming it resulted from innocent activities like playing sports with his companions. The deceptions and his supposed bruised eyes began to gain credibility, and people started to accept his distorted version of events. It wasn't long before rumors started spreading, and even my companions began to regard me with doubt. Initially, I noticed subtle shifts. Friends who once conversed with me in the corridors suddenly became distant. Invitations to group gatherings became less frequent. It was like a mechanism had been activated, and people were reluctant to associate with the allegedly spoiled girl accused of aggression. One day, I gathered the bravery to ask my former closest friend why things had shifted between us. She revealed how my twin sibling had been circulating rumors about me. She disclosed the elaborate deceptions he had told everyone, accusing me of actions I had never committed. I was stunned to hear her words. The sensation was a combination of disbelief and betrayal, as if the foundation beneath me had collapsed. My sibling, someone I grew up with, was spreading lies about me, accusing me of things I would never even consider doing. It was a betrayal that wounded deeply, leaving me with a knot in my stomach and a weighted heart. I confronted my sibling the day following our school, but he chose to disregard me. I pleaded with him to stop deceiving about me, but he smirked at me and told me that I deserved to decay alone. I was speechless because his lies and conduct were beginning to frighten me. I wanted to speak with my parents, but I was worried that they would trust my sibling over me. The isolation hurt especially because I had always been willing to form friendships. It felt like my siblings' envy-driven deceptions were destroying the relationships I had constructed over the years. Educators, too, began to hear about the rumors. It was a surreal experience, as if I were existing in an alternate reality where my genuine self was overshadowed by the malicious narrative created by my own twin. The lies had expanded beyond simple teenage rumors. They were now influencing how people truly viewed me. The unpleasant gossip quickly reached my principal's attention, and then my worst fear materialized. The principal immediately summoned me and my sibling into his office along with our parents so we could address these alleged rumors. I sat there, heart racing as the principal demanded the truth. I hoped my sibling would finally be honest, but instead he reinforced the lies. He directly told the principal that yes, the rumors were accurate and portrayed me as this aggressor who went around attacking him when our parents weren't present. I couldn't believe it. Shock overwhelmed me as my sibling continued, weaving this twisted narrative about how I was angry at him for receiving more affection from our parents. It was all complete fabrication, but he maintained his story persistently. My mother began weeping hearing my sibling's account, clinging to my sibling like he was some kind of champion. My father attempted to console my sibling, telling him that it was courageous for him to speak out and that he was going to ensure that nothing would ever harm him again. After that day, I tried to defend myself, begging the principal that it was all fabricated. I felt like I was sinking in an ocean of accusations, desperately attempting to reach the surface, but my sibling persisted, insisting that I was this furious, violent individual taking out my frustrations on him daily. My mother's tears continued as she held onto my sibling, giving me accusatory glances. It was like battling against a barrier of belief in my sibling's invented story. My principal scolded me severely, stating the school didn't accept bullying, and these were reasons to suspend me. I begged him not to suspend me, but he shook his head saying he couldn't simply ignore it. I pleaded with him, tears flowing down my face, trying to tell him that I didn't harm my sibling in any way. The principal firmly informed me that I would be suspended for 10 days so that others would see this as an example to never bully anyone. It struck me hard, and I started weeping even more, practically begging him to reconsider. My parents, angry and embarrassed by the entire situation, dragged me from the principal's office. I didn't want to depart. I wanted to present my case and make them understand, but they would have none of it. We left the school, my heart heavy with frustration and shame. When we arrived home, things took a dramatic turn. My father started collecting my belongings out of nowhere. I was shocked, confused, and had no understanding of what was occurring. My mother asked him what he was doing, but he just yelled that he couldn't allow me to reside in the same house as my sibling anymore. I was weeping, practically on my knees, and begged my sibling to tell them the truth, but he remained cold, unmoved by my emotions. My father continued gathering my possessions and then threw the luggage into our entrance hall. I clung to my father's legs, still begging him not to expel me. It was like a nightmare developing. He told me that an aggressor like me didn't deserve to reside in his house, and that he would ask his mother, my grandmother, to come and collect me if she wanted to do that. It felt like the world had collapsed beneath me. I stood there in shock, surrounded by my belongings scattered in the entrance hall, expelled from my own home. Eventually, my grandmother did arrive. She gathered all my possessions and helped me place them in the vehicle, helping me into the passenger seat. She made sure I had my safety belt on before walking toward my parents' front entrance. She rang the bell, and when my father opened the door, she started to shout at him for treating me this way. With firm determination, she warned him that if he ever approached me or tried to contact me again, she wouldn't hesitate to involve law enforcement or child services, since what he had done to a child like me could potentially result in him facing jail time. My mother, attempting to shift responsibility, told her that it was my fault. However, my grandmother wasn't accepting any of it. She stood her ground defending me, emphasizing that I was just a child who didn't deserve to be treated in such a heartless manner. That was the first time in my life I witnessed how powerful my grandmother was. She didn't submit to my parents, and unlike what they believed, she trusted me. Eventually, we drove away, leaving behind my home, the only place I had ever grown up in. I can't even begin to express in words how indescribable the pain I felt during that period. I remember just weeping on the bed and not consuming anything despite how much my grandmother encouraged me to. I told her what my sibling had done, and she was shocked as well. She assured me that she believed my version of the story, and I was happy that I at least had one person who supported me. When the 10 days of suspension ended, the prospect of returning to school felt like stepping back into a dangerous situation. As I entered the familiar corridors, The expressions of my classmates spoke volumes. Judgment, whispers, and sideways glances. The weight of the false accusations continued to hang in the atmosphere. Meanwhile, my sibling blatantly ignored me and acted like I didn't exist. He had become friends with a few people who believed his version of the story and saw him as the victim of my attacks. No matter how much I tried to tell my version of the story to anyone, it fell on deaf ears. I was an outcast, branded with an unjust label that clung to me like a shadow no matter where I went. The classroom, the cafeteria, the corridors, the eyes that met mine were filled with contempt and mistrust. I became a loner. I would keep my head down and attend all my classes, have lunch alone in the cafeteria, and would directly go back home. I had no friends, and it felt like everyone pretty much didn't want me there. Throughout all this, my parents never once called to check on me. My grandmother would constantly remind me that this was not my fault, and that life would eventually be okay. I graduated high school with strong grades and was looking forward to college where hopefully I would have a better life. It was only when I went away to college that I first experienced what freedom felt like for the first time. No one was monitoring over my shoulders, no one was comparing my grades, and no one was trying to compete with me. I met people and formed friendships with similar-minded individuals. Despite the emotional and physical wounds I had sustained over the years due to my family and peers, I concentrated on putting it all behind me and enjoying this college experience as much as I could. During this time, I discovered my talent for content writing. I had always been someone who wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't sure if it would be sustainable for a long time. Hence, I decided to abandon my dream, but to earn some additional income, I decided to start writing as a freelancer. I registered on various freelancing platforms which helped me secure jobs from prominent clients. This is how I slowly started building a portfolio of my work. Throughout college, I maintained this side business and never requested a penny from my parents. When I graduated from college, instead of getting a corporate job, I realized that I could pursue content writing as a full-time career. I was doing quite well because of the multiple clients and the long-term professional relationships I had with them, which allowed them to involve me in multiple projects of theirs. Having a legitimate freelancing career not only made me financially independent, but also allowed me to travel the world as a digital nomad. Traveling helped heal me from my past, even though it was definitely not easy. I saved up as much as I could and took a chance on myself. Over the years, I have seen so much of the world, and yet I have so much of it left to see. The only person who I considered my family throughout all this was my grandmother, and I absolutely cherished her. She was very sad when I moved out, but she understood that I needed to be independent on my own. Despite my hectic schedule, I would make it a point to be there for her whenever I could. I would visit her on the weekends, often sharing meals together or simply sitting on the porch, engaged in conversations that ranged from childhood stories to more recent happenings. On weekends, I would dedicate entire afternoons to helping her with household tasks or accompanying her to the local park for a leisurely stroll. Recently, I completed one of the most important projects of my career. I can't mention the brand, but I was extremely fortunate to write blogs and product descriptions for them. After the project was finished, I requested the team I worked with to leave me positive reviews on my websites, which they were more than happy to do. I then took screenshots of some of their reviews to post on my Instagram, as I knew working with this brand was a huge accomplishment. As expected, a lot of other content writers reached out to congratulate me on my professional success and even reposted my story to help spread the word. This is how I started getting messages from strangers who also needed help with their website. My relatives noticed this as well, and some of them reached out to congratulate me. Eventually, I was contacted by my college's principal. He had reached out to me after seeing that I was doing so well and wanted me to come to college for a seminar to talk to students about building a career as a content writer. I was quite nervous as I don't perform well when it comes to public speaking, but I decided to take a chance and agreed. When I found myself standing before eager faces, sharing my experiences and insights, I felt like my life had come full circle. I spoke in my presentation about the struggles I faced and how I worked hard to sustain myself despite all the difficult days. It was honestly a very fulfilling experience to empower others and contribute to the growth of the writers' community. Some of my clips started going viral on social media groups as people connected with it. It felt good to be finally recognized for my hard work. Last week, I was invited to speak at a local news channel. It was a show about the benefits of content writing, and they invited me to share my journey and insights with their viewers. I was a bit nervous, but also excited for the opportunity. During the show, I talked about my experiences, the importance of client reviews, and how a simple appreciation post could open doors to incredible opportunities. The opportunity to reach a broader audience and inspire more individuals in the field was both humbling and exhilarating. When it finally aired, I shared some of these clips on my Instagram as well, as I was proud about being invited to a television show. This is how my relatives and cousins started finding out how well I was doing in my career. You see, because my parents never talked about me to anyone, they had no idea that I was working with popular brands and getting invited to television shows. This is how word quickly spread within my family. I guess this television interview must have finally reached my parents' attention also, because just a few days later, I was working on another project and had my phone on silent. When I was done with my work, I checked my phone and to my surprise, there were 6 missed calls from my mother. I was honestly shocked to see her name on my phone as it had been a long, long time since she had called me. After all those years of silence, I couldn't fathom why she was calling me. I hesitantly called her back and she picked up immediately. I asked her if everything was okay, and my mother started to congratulate me. My father, probably sitting right there with mother, jumped into the conversation also. He started to inquire about my life and well-being, and I answered their questions without much thought. It didn't strike me as unusual until they began to ask how much I was earning these days. I told them that it was none of their business, and my father replied that we were family, so I shouldn't feel shy telling them my income. I told him that I was doing well financially. Hearing this, my mother then began to say how hard their life was these days. My brows furrowed in suspicion. Basically, here is how our conversation pretty much went. Mother, we are retired now, and we have been wanting to renovate the house for a while now. It's not in the best shape, but we have no savings left. Me okay. Mother, your success has given us hope. After watching your television interview today, we thought maybe you could help us out by paying for the renovations. Father, after all, we are a family. You shouldn't hesitate to share some of your earnings with us. We can really use your help. Me, are you joking with me? Why are you asking me for money when you haven't even talked to me for years? I don't know what made you decide to reach out to me, and while I appreciate the congratulations, I am not going to help you out in any way. Hearing this, my mother started saying how I was being unreasonable and that I needed to support them as a family. My father also added that as my parents, they deserve to be looked after, and that this was the least that I could do. I was so angry at this that I wanted to give them a piece of my mind. I suddenly got an idea that instead of just arguing with them, I should teach them a lesson forever, thinking that they could take advantage of me after mistreating me all those years ago. I told my parents that I was willing to help them if, and only if they agreed to my demands. My father curiously asked me what it was. Without hesitation, I laid out my demand. If they wanted my help, they had to publicly admit in front of our family and friends that my sibling was the mastermind behind the hurtful rumors that had tarnished my reputation. I wanted them to humiliate my sibling the same way they had humiliated me in front of everyone by believing his lies and manipulations. I wanted them to take accountability for their actions and acknowledge the pain they had caused. Hearing my impossible condition, my father began to question the necessity of such an admission. My mother told me how this was all quite unnecessary and that we could have a private discussion without involving others, but I held my ground. This condition was non-negotiable, a prerequisite for any assistance they wanted me to offer them in the future. As the tension escalated, my father raised his voice, asserting his role as my father, and started to emphasize that it was my duty to help my family in need. My mother, in a last-ditch effort, urged me to do the right thing and help them, emphasizing the years they had spent raising me. I couldn't help but find irony in their sudden appeal. I reminded them of the past, of the fact that they had expelled me, and it was my grandmother who had raised me, not them. They started to get more and more agitated, but I told them firmly that if they wanted to establish contact with me and seek my financial assistance from now on, then the truth needed to be acknowledged publicly, and my sibling needed to face consequences for his actions. Since this conversation, my parents have been trying to incessantly call me, but I am ignoring their calls. I am starting to regret even calling them back that day. I would like to know if I would really be wrong if I didn't help my parents at all. Update 1. It's been a whirlwind of a week since I last shared my story, and the support and encouragement I have been receiving from everyone has been overwhelming. It's heartening to know that I'm not alone during this time. I am glad that everyone agrees that I should not engage with my parents or even consider helping them out after what they put me through. The reason I even gave them such a condition was because I knew it was pretty much impossible for them to do it. I know they love my sibling too much, and despite the fact that they might have found out by now that it was all his lies, I know they will never put him through what they put me through. Today my sibling sent me a nasty text message after my parents again tried to contact me, and I refused to pick up their calls. This is what he wrote. Hey sis, it's been a long time since I saw you, and I can tell you that every day without you in my life has been great. I heard that mother and father reached out to you, and you gave them a crazy ultimatum. They're never going to go through with it, you know that, right? They clearly never loved you, and they will never do anything to hurt me. I admit that I did lie about you 15 years ago, but it's been a long time since then, so stop being so selfish and try to move on from the past. You are unmarried and childless anyway, so why do you not want to help them out by paying for their repairs and renovations around the house? Do the right thing, and be a better daughter. Seeing the message felt like a stab to my chest. The audacity to dismiss the struggles I had faced and the conditions I had set spoke volumes about his lack of empathy. The attempt to guilt-trip me by emphasizing my unmarried and childless status added another layer of insensitivity. His insinuation that I should prioritize their needs over my own well-being was not only offensive, but also highlighted how little he thought of me. Fueled by frustration and a strong desire for justice, I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands and reveal the truth that had been hidden for too long. I sat down to write an email to my parents and close relatives, sharing the painful details of my childhood and the unfair treatment I had endured while growing up at my family house. In the email, I described the strict and oppressive environment I had under my parents' roof and how they treated me compared to my twin sibling. The email also delved into the malicious and completely untrue rumor my sibling had spread about me in school, which had led to severe consequences and affected my reputation. I wrote how my parents had expelled me to the curb, and had it not been for my grandmother, I might have been dead in the streets by now. Towards the end, I asked everyone to read a message my sibling had sent me. I attached a screenshot where he admitted to lying about me. It was a clear confession that I hoped would expose the lies that had persisted for too long. I sent the email just an hour ago, and I know that all chaos will break loose once my parents and my sibling read it. I will update you next regarding how my family reacts to my email. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot of things have happened this month. As you can imagine, my family did erupt after receiving the email. My parents have received criticism from relatives who were previously unaware of the extent of the favoritism and emotional abuse. A lot of the family members reached out to me telling me that they had no idea about all this and apologized to me for not being there for me. My sibling and my parents sent me a barrage of text messages that were starting to get more abusive and violent, so I decided to reach out to a lawyer who sent them a notice of cease and desist. It basically warned them to not contact me further, and if they did, they would have to face dire legal consequences. I guess this must have scared them straight because they stopped contacting me. My grandmother thinks I have done the right thing by letting everyone know what happened and supports me 100%. She is the only person who matters to me, so I'm glad she has my back. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update. I am happy to report that everything in my life is going well for now. Professionally, my content writing business has been flourishing. The invitations to speak at seminars and podcasts continue to roll in, solidifying my position as a respected figure in my line of work. I am as close to my grandmother as ever. I took a week's break from my work recently, so I could spend some quality time with her. She is into gardening these days and educated me a lot about various flowers and herbs in her garden. The moments I spent with her, whether sharing meals, engaging in heartfelt conversations, or simply enjoying each other's company, are my favorite and cherished memories. My family has not contacted me after the letter they received from my lawyer, so I'm happy that they are staying away from me. Personally, I have started going to therapy, so hopefully I can work on healing myself. I think this will be the last update for now.